Catholic Moments, episode 123, Father Andrew Gawrych.
Finding joy in the journey and hope in the heaven yet to come.
Hello and welcome to Catholic Moments. And now, here's your host and my mom, Lisa Hendy.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you to Teresa Smith, singer of our theme song, Blooming. And I also want to give a thanks right away to all of you for being very patient with me last week. I regret the fact that we didn't have a show last week, but I just could not, frankly, muster up the voice to speak to you guys. I've been suffering with some kind of virus or flu type of thing for the last couple of weeks, and I'm finally back to my regular voice this week, and really happy to be back behind the microphone again and sharing this special time with you. I'm so excited to share with you my interview with Father Andrew Gawrych, who is an author and just a fantastic young priest. Got some great ideas from him on prospering vocations in our parishes and in our families, and I know that you're just going to fall in love with Father Drew just like I did. And we've got some special hijinks again from our friends Sarah and Deacon Tom, some promos to play throughout the show, and a great debut of a fantastic new song at the end of the show. So let's start off with a few announcements about some upcoming great new Catholic podcasts.
Oh, come on. Aren't you tired of listening to all these professional podcasts? Why not come over right now, stop what you're listening to right now, and head over to CatholicPilot.com, where you'll find the Catholic Pilot Podcast. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, where we talk about our Catholic faith, and we talk about flying, and everything else in between. So come on, head on over to CatholicPilot.com and take a listen. Join the fun.
Captain Jeff's gonna fly ya. Now don't you get too carried away. Oh, Catholic Pilot Podcast will be sure to make your day.
Oh my gosh, Captain Jeff, that totally rocks. So I don't like the part where he says, stop what you're doing right now and head over to Catholic Pilot. I want you to listen to the rest of the show because I know you're going to love Father Drew and you have to hear what Tom and Sarah have to say. But after that, you can head over to CatholicPilot.com. Jeff has the most amazing sense of humor. The podcast is so fun and I know you're going to love it. So check it out at CatholicPilot.com. And some of you have been wondering what's been going on with our friend Nancy and her Chesterton Moments. Well, I'm happy to announce that Nancy has created her own brand new podcast, and let's hear a little bit more about that right now. Here's Nancy.
Common sense is rather uncommon these days. Where can we find it?
The American Chesterton Society.
The world is crazy, but there is a place where reason reigns and common sense is king.
Uncommon Sense.
This is Uncommon Sense.
Uncommon Sense, the podcast of the American Chesterton Society.
Uncommon Sense.
Uncommon Sense.
Want to start a revolution?
Uncommon Sense. Uncommon Sense.
Fight the culture. Listen to Uncommon Sense. Uncommon Sense, the podcast of the American Chesterton Society.
Well, thanks again to Nancy for the segment she shared with us. It whet our appetites for more information about G.K. Chesterton. And if you'd like to check out that podcast, you can follow the links that we'll have in the show notes and head over there and subscribe. There's just so much great stuff these days over on iTunes. So many wonderful ways to entertain, educate, and inform ourselves. And thanks again to Nancy for sharing that promo. And next up, let's hear from everybody's favorite online deacon, Deacon Tom Fox, and our good friend, Sarah Reinhardt. And let's see what they have in store for us this week. They've been up to some little bits of surprises lately, so I'm anxious to hear this one along with you. Here's Deacon Tom and Sarah.
Hello, my name's Elizabeth.
And my name's Sarah Reinhardt. It's time for Mary Moment. This week, during our Mary Moment, we have a special surprise for everybody. You might recall last week that during the Deacon Moment, there was a Mary Maiden, and that was me. Well, this week, during our Mary Moment, we have some Deacon flair. And that's just my little nickname for my favorite online deacon, Deacon Tom. Deacon Tom, can you say hi to everybody for us?
Hey, hi there. It's so good to be with you.
And it's good to be with you again, Deacon Tom. One of my favorite parts about this month of the Rosary is I have an excuse every week to Skype with Deacon Tom, and sometimes I get to see Dee, too. Deacon Tom, we're going to start off and have you tell us about your devotion to the Blessed Mother.
Okay, well, there actually are a number of parts to the story, but the quickest way that I can tell you is, as I was beginning to go through my reversion and coming back into the church after being away for a long time, this Irish priest, Father Pat in our life, I think you have a Father Pat in your life.
I do.
Father Pat in our life gave me St. Therese sacrifice beads. These are little beads with 10 beads on them and a crucifix. And he said, he gives them to everybody, and he said, just carry them around, and when you do something nice for somebody, just move a bead. So that was the start, and, then I found out, well, heck, I could just do some Hail Marys on them, and as if Father Pat didn't know that, or the Blessed Virgin. But one thing led to another, and so I worked my way back into the Rosary. I also have a great friendship and support in my heart for a place called Madonna House, which I'm sure you know of. I read a column that you did some time ago about Madonna House, and things were not going very well for Catherine Doherty, the foundress of Madonna House, until she and her husband did a total consecration to Mary. And when I read that, and then I started reading some of the writings of Louis de Montfort, I decided that maybe I could try, as broken as I am, I could try a devotion to Mary, and so I've done a self-consecration to the Blessed Virgin. And I just have to say that I feel that she's with me and helping me, even though I make some missteps along the way. So that's not exactly a short version, but that's sort of the beginning.
I feel your pain on the not being able to be short about it. You mentioned Our Lady of Combermere is the title associated with the Madonna House, which you referred to in your story. Do you have a favorite or a special title of Mary that pulls on your heartstrings or has a special spot in your devotions?
Okay, once again, I'll have trouble making this short, but here's my best shot. I like having a place in my heart for Mary in two different ways. One is actually from the formation I heard about at Madonna House, which is that it's very customary to name places in honor of the Blessed Virgin. So, like you said, Our Lady of Combermere. When I was ordained a deacon, I was assigned to a parish in Colorado called Our Lady of the Mountains. And I got in the habit of, from time to time, when I would do a homily or a sermon, I would say, Our Lady of Arizona or Our Lady of Columbus. Isn't that where you're sort of near?
Yeah, that's the big town near us.
Yeah, so I think of Mary as being near to us, and I often associate her name with the geography of where I am or where I go to. The other thing that really moves me is Mary in some of the beautiful titles that she has. Our Lady of Tenderness, Our Lady of the Way, Mother of the Eucharist, Our Lady of Perpetual Help. And I saw one the other day, Perfume of Faith.
Oh!
Isn't that beautiful?
What a great one. I'm writing that one down.
So, as best I can, that's a short reply.
I love that approach, putting Our Lady in front of your geography and making Mary part of your everyday life in a really intimate way. What advice do you give people, Deacon Tom, and I'm sure you come across a lot of them in your ministries, who struggle with devotion to Mary?
Well, you're right. There are people that struggle, and certainly I struggled too during the early days of my reversion. I read something someplace. I wish I could be quick in recall to tell you where it was, but I read something about a devotion to Jesus, and this reading was pulling me further and further and further into an intimate relationship with Jesus. And at the end of it, there were words like, "Oh, my mom is here with me. Say hi to her before you leave." And I went, "Oh, she is. She is where he is." And so if someone has a deep devotion or a call to a relationship with Jesus, that's absolutely awesome. But just look over in the corner. She's there smiling. So that kind of thought, I think, will help someone to develop more and more of a relationship.
I love that. I'm going to have to encourage you to think of the reference for that. I love that thought of Jesus saying, "Hey, say hi to my mom." That speaks to me. Well, Deacon Tom, I know you and I could talk for hours about this, or I could, and you might be rather miserable in that talk, but we have to respect Lisa's time constraints and leave her hanging as to what we have up our sleeves for next week.
Oh, boy.
But I do want to mention to everybody listening to this edition of Catholic Moments that Deacon Tom has a special treat for everybody. I don't know if you listened to his podcast, which is fabulous, called Catholic Vitamins, but leftover, was it from the Vitamin D show, Deacon Tom? You have some Discerning Your Gifts brochures left over?
I do. I have a few, and if anybody would like to send an email through your linkage or coming directly to us, we would love to send it to you at no charge. It's an Our Sunday Visitor small brochure on discerning your gifts. Thank you for mentioning that, Sarah.
No problem. And with that, Lisa, we will turn the show back over to you. And until next week, my friends, may Mary hold you in your everyday life and lead you back to her Son.
Well, thanks, Sarah and Deacon Tom. I have to tell you, my Skype has been broken for several months, but actually managed to get it fixed this week. So I'm very envious of these Skype conversations that the two of you have been having, and I'm hoping to get in on one of them soon. And I'm also very anxious to see what the two of you have in store for us next week. But before that, I want to play a little promo for one of my favorite new podcasts, and it features somebody that you know and love as well.
Are you keeping up in the faith race? Or are you in need of some supplements to boost your stamina? You might just want to listen to the Catholic Vitamins podcast with Deacon Tom Fox and his wife Dee. Catholic Vitamins? Yep. From A to Z, you're sure to find nutritional nuggets to boost you along the course. Interesting ideas, challenging guests, and some fun, too, like Vitamin Scrabble and great Catholic sweet treats. These have all been specially approved to help you win eternal health and happiness. Catholic Vitamins. Who knew?
Well, you can check out that show over at CatholicVitamins.com. And while you're visiting around the internet, be sure to stop over at SnoringScholar.com for more great stuff from Sarah Reinhardt. And thank you to the two of you. And now I'm very happy to share this week's interview, my conversation with Father Andrew Gawrych. Next up on today's episode of Catholic Moments, I'm very pleased to welcome our guest for this week, Father Andrew Gawrych. Father Drew is the Associate Pastor of St. John Vianney Parish in Phoenix, Arizona, the Diocese of Phoenix, and was ordained a priest in the Congregation of Holy Cross in 2008. How are you today, Father Andrew?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm so happy to have you. I have to say, first of all, that I'm the proud owner of a few of your books, and one of them is actually a signed edition, so it's such a treat to be able to talk to you today. I have my copy of The Cross, Our Only Hope is signed by you and also by Father Hesburgh, so this is a real treat for me today to get to speak with the author and editor of this book. So why don't you start off by basically introducing yourself to our listening audience and letting them know a little bit more about yourself and your pathway to your vocation.
Well, probably starts with my family. I'm a member of a family of four. My dad, George, who's a professor of history at Baylor University in Texas, and my mom, Joan. She's had kind of a number of jobs over the years, looking for one right now. And then my sister, Teresa, who teaches photography at the University of Mississippi. She's doing quite well for herself there, so her older brother's pretty proud of her. But we grew up actually in Kansas, and family of faith. We went to Mass every Sunday. I like telling people now who are struggling with coming to church every week that I'm 29 years old now, and I never missed Mass on Sunday. It was always part of the family vacation to find one of the churches in the area and just experience Mass at a different church and what that was like and what the preaching was like and how we were welcomed in the community. So it was a family in which faith was really important for us. We weren't a family who prayed the rosary every day, but we were a family in which faith was always a constant part of the conversation. My dad in particular always was a big stickler for how we lived out a faith in our daily lives. It wasn't just something we did for the hour at church on Sunday, although that was important. I remember we could never listen to music in the car going to church because we had to be ready to pray.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Clear. Yeah,
it's like a football coach getting his players ready to go into the game.
Yeah, making sure we were focused and our minds weren't cluttered with other stuff. So, and I've done that ever since. It's a good way to make sure I'm focused and ready to pay attention at Mass. But I think I took from my parents a deep faith and also a deep concern for how it was lived out in our daily lives. So I think like a lot of Catholic men, I thought in the back of my mind that maybe God was calling me to be a priest. I had an uncle who was a priest who would vacation with us every summer, and so I went on my first roller coaster with him. I remember rollerblading with him in the park, playing cards with him. So I grew up with a sense that priests were normal people, because my uncle seemed like another normal adult, but I thought he was a holy person as well. He had clearly given his life to a good cause and a good mission. So it was something that always attracted me, but I also grew up with lots of dreams of having a wife and 12 kids and a beautiful family. So when I went to the University of Notre Dame, I knew I'd have to decide between the two, and I was hoping God would lead me to one of the two before I graduated, because I really wanted to get going with my life. I really wanted to find what God had in store for me, because I think, although I couldn't have put it that way at the time, I knew my true freedom and my true joy was going to lie in being able to give myself to something. I wasn't leaving my options open, but it was being able to commit myself to something that was going to make my life meaningful and worthwhile. So, and a weird kind of twist of fate, I thought, man, I was going to graduate without knowing. God was taking a little longer than I wanted. Then all of a sudden in the second semester of my senior year, actually while I was in love with someone, it came clear to me that God was calling me to enter the seminary to investigate it more. I wasn't sure yet that God was calling me to be a priest, but I felt sure enough that God was calling me to investigate it, to find out more, to try it on, and to see if it was what worked for me. And obviously now that I'm ordained, about 7-8 years later now, it did work out in the seminary. Some tough years, but some wonderful years, and really grew along the way, and I just feel so blessed, so blessed to have been a priest now for 15 months or so, and love my work, love my ministry, love working with the people of God. So it was a bit of a roundabout path at sometimes, but I'm glad that God led me to where he did.
I think every path like that is perfect for the person involved. And, I'm curious about how you ended up in the Diocese of Phoenix in a parish. How were you assigned out there immediately after your ordination?
Well, the way it works in Holy Cross, we usually spend our deacon year, the transitional deacon year, ministering in a parish, which is actually pretty unique. Most diocesan priests and other religious priests will usually be studying their deacon year. But the wisdom in our congregation is to get us out, to get us working and ministering among the people of God that year. So I came out here actually just having completed my seminary studies and worked here as a transitional deacon, and then have been here since as a priest at a parish that our community serves here. And it's just been an absolutely wonderful experience. People here have taught me so much about being ordained minister and a priest, and I think that's part of the wisdom in our community of getting our men out there working with the people, because I learned a lot about being a priest from my studies, but I learned even more from watching my pastor here, watching the associate when I arrived, but also in interacting with the people and getting their sense of what my calling was and how I was supposed to help them in their lives experience God's love and salvation.
It's such a treat to be able to talk to somebody who's just so new to, a relatively new priest. It's really exciting to hear from you from that perspective. You mentioned a couple times the wisdom of your congregation, and I think it's a great transition to start talking about the books that you've had a hand in, because they're so pinned to the philosophy and the theology of the Congregation of Holy Cross. Tell our listeners a little bit more about these books, and particularly The Cross, Our Only Hope, and the one that you have coming out for Advent as well.
Well, one of the things I found as a seminarian in the community is I started to learn a lot more about the tradition and the spirituality of the Congregation of Holy Cross. And we're perhaps best known for the University of Notre Dame, so maybe most people think our spirituality centers around football.
Right.
But our founder had a very deep devotion to the cross and experienced it very profoundly in his life, Blessed Basil Moreau. And so he left as our motto, Ave Crux Spes Unica, Hail the Cross, our only hope. And for me, I know in my life, one of the ways that the truth of Christianity and the love of our God has become so real to me is precisely through my own experiences of the cross and how in that self-sacrifice we experience the fullness of God's love. And so our spirituality as a community really started to resonate with me, especially in my ministry to and with God's people, because so many people are bearing crosses in their lives, whether it's the loss of a pregnancy or whether it's unemployment at this time due to the economy, or whether like some of our parishioners who are persecuted because of being immigrants in this country, that a lot of people in their daily lives encounter the cross. And our spirituality as a community has a way for us to be able to find in the cross the hope that it gives us by uniting those moments with Christ suffering for us on the cross. So I felt called with another seminarian to try to begin to share that spirituality with others, but of course not in the deep theological book that no one would pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Our thought was to go through daily meditations. I actually, when I was a student at Notre Dame, started sending out these little daily devotions that I called DDs, and the list started with 30-some-odd, and it grew to about 500 by the time I graduated.
Wow.
My parents liked to give me a hard time because I didn't include them from the beginning. I was a little embarrassed to include them, so they got it forwarded by someone else. I got into a little trouble for that. But I thought the wisdom and the beautiful thing about daily devotions was that it gave us a kind of a nice way for us to start our day and a rhythm of prayer we could develop, because sometimes it can be hard for us in our daily lives to keep prayer going, to find those spiritual nuggets for us to reflect on during the day. So daily reflections in my own life experience and in my work with others has seemed to me to be a way that we can really charge our day with God from the beginning by taking a reflection that invites us into our faith, and these books invite us into the spirituality of Holy Cross. We can have something that we can kind of munch on or chew on the rest of the day, and maybe be reminded in moments throughout the day of the reflection that helps us transform our day just from being another daily journey to being a walk with God. And so the idea of these books is by taking daily reflections written by the priests, brothers, and sisters of our community from throughout the world, that it will shed light on our daily lives, and it will transform them again from just being just another regular day to being that walk with God, which is what discipleship is what it is to follow Christ at the end of the day.
I love in The Cross, Our Only Hope, the introduction that you've written that kind of gives really a history of the congregation and of Blessed Basil Moreau's place in the congregation and an overview of the philosophy. I have to ask how you had close to 200 people contribute to that particular book. How does that all come together? And did you basically, as a seminarian, just one day go to one of your leaders and say, I have this idea, or how did it happen?
It's an interesting story. We were actually running one day training for, I think it was helping a couple of seminarians train for their marathon they were going to go run, and that's when the idea was born. And we did get some help from some of our elders in the community who helped put us in contact with the people who at our press could make this book happen. And then from there, it was just a matter of sending out emails, making phone calls. I think Kevin and I like to say, I think we had over 5,000 emails to make the book come about.
Wow.
But we really were striving to get a large number of participants from around the world because we wanted to have unique voices that came together to speak as one. And I think that's what the collection does, that if we read them day to day, you can hear the unique voices that are coming through, but at the end, we can still hear a solid voice of the tradition of Holy Cross. In some ways, it's the experience of what hopefully church is supposed to be for us, too, that we can all come with our unique gifts and talents and voices, but they still, in their uniqueness, merge together to be one voice, one faith. And I think one of the powerful things for me about the books, and me myself reading them now, knowing the cast of characters that are in the books and knowing some of their life stories and the twists and turns, is how there comes this great tapestry, this single profession of faith and this single profession of hope. so that was a lot of work along the way, a lot of long nights for Kevin and I, but it was a real joyful process as well.
And where is he now?
He actually, thanks be to God, timing of this interview is great, was just ordained a deacon in the church yesterday and took his final vows the day before. So he's working at one of our parishes as a transitional deacon, and God willing, next April will be ordained a priest. So hopefully be another wonderful priest serving.
Well,
God's
please
people.
let him know that he's in our prayers as well. We're all really praying this year for all of you, all of our priests, during the year that Pope Benedict has called us to pray for priests. And that was one of the questions that I wanted to go over with you, is how you as a parish priest and working with families in your parish, if you could make sort of a wish list of things that families could do during this year for priests to be supportive, not only of existing priests, but also of future vocations, possibly even within our own families. What are some words of wisdom you can share on that topic?
Well, certainly you mentioned prayer, and it does need to start there. I mean, prayer is one of the most important things we can do for vocations. But, of course, we know that God asks us to cooperate with His grace. So part of the grace I think He's giving us for vocations to the church means we need to cooperate together. At our church, we're blessed now to have 3 men currently in formation for priesthood and 1 woman in formation for religious life. And we probably have around 10 men and somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 women who are in discernment groups at this time, considering calls to the religious life.
And how large is your parish? How many families or people?
We have about 4,500 people at Mass on a weekend.
Wow.
So we're a decent-sized parish, but not super huge. And what we found that is important here is to involve the whole community and to have a comprehensive plan. So our parish has a comprehensive vocation plan that's overseen by a committee of 10 lay people, 1 priest, and 1 sister. And it's purposely composed with that many lay people representing the various ministries of the church to underscore that really the work of vocation promotion is the work of all of us in the church. And that we really, when we come, we need to work together. And when we do come together as parents, teachers, catechists, priests, sisters, to work as one, the whole church benefits. And so we work with kids as young as grade school. We work with parents as well to help them hopefully guide their children well to what their vocation might be. We work to train our staff and our catechists in how to promote vocations. And when we work together like that, I think that's when we can see the fruits. But for a particular family, praying as a family is one of the most important things. Obviously, going to church on Sunday is extremely important. But one of my biggest pieces of advice is to parents right now, if they want to help them discover God's will in their life, is to make sure that we give our children other role models and mentors in the faith who are adults.
Mm-hmm.
Because there comes times in all of our lives, those of us who are children of parents, where it's a little tough to go to mom and dad. Maybe because our relationship with mom and dad maybe has some baggage. I mean, all relationships can have their rough spots, right? Or maybe we're going through just one of those times where we've been hurt so much that we know if we had to share our hurts with our mom and our dad, it would hurt them all the more, because we could see how them finding out about some of the wounds or twists and turns our life had will just hurt them more. And so we need to have someone else to go to. And so one of the best things parents can do is make sure that there's those uncles, aunts, godparents, next-door neighbors who you end up calling uncle or aunt, who can be those adult figures who our children can then go to in their moments of maybe need when they can't come to us, their parents, to get the guidance, the example they need. It's interesting that most kids usually talk about their vocations first, not with their parents, but with someone else. And I think that's partly because they can feel the freedom there not to have mom or dad's pressure, not to have mom or dad's approval or disapproval to explore it. And so if our children have those good mentors, there's good role models, they'll foster those vocations. They'll help lead them to God's will.
Well, wonderful suggestions, and it sounds though as though in your parish you're not leaving it to chance. It's definitely a real priority within the parish. Is this a diocesan program that you're following, or is this something that you guys created within?
It is a program that we've created. Yeah, I also like to say that I don't believe there's a vocation crisis in the church. I believe the crisis is more probably properly diagnosed as maybe a crisis of faith, that we've stopped placing our faith in the Lord, that we can't trust His call in our lives, or that we've just gotten lazy. And there are plenty of vocations out there. Within just a year and a half of starting this plan, again, out of the woodwork, we have all these young men and young women who are discerning calls to the priesthood and the religious life. If it wasn't for the efforts of our parish, if it wasn't for the efforts of the vocation committee, I think some of those young men and women would be going down very different paths in their lives right now. Not unholy paths, because they're kids who are committed to Christ, who want to serve them and serve Him in their lives. But they need to be mentored. They need to be helped, led through a process of discernment. And that includes giving them ministry opportunities. That includes giving them discernment groups in which they can begin to explore vocations. And that includes fostering support for vocations in the parish, where that that the kids know that if they come forward and say they're thinking about this, they're going to be supported. Because one of the interesting things for me in reading the recent study that came out about vocations in the church was how few of the men who just were recently ordained, or the women in religious life, felt that their parishes were supportive of their vocations. And I thought that was one of the sad things of that study, was that there wasn't more support from parishes to the people who were seeking vocations. Now, maybe
you're talking about people who have recently
entered religious life, or the seminary.
So that maybe once they got there, they didn't feel supported by the people back in the parish.
They didn't list the parish as one of the greater supporters of their vocation.
Wow.
Or one of the greater encouragements of their vocations. And I think that's sad. I mean, as a family of faith, as we like to talk here at St. John Vianney, because we always like to talk about ourselves as a family, we talk about how we have a responsibility as a community of faith to raise up the next generation of priests and sisters to serve us. Otherwise, where are they going to come from? And
very true.
I feel that same thing as a priest, and so this could be a little challenge to my brother priest too, but I spend a lot of time preparing couples for marriage. If I'm not willing to give some time, energy, and prayer to preparing young men and women for the priesthood and religious life, they're not going to just appear out of thin air. And so as parishes, I think we need to make the commitment to work together and to really establish a plan that helps promote vocations. And I should say our vocation plan does also promote the vocation of marriage. We're also starting with kids as young as our elementary school, trying to make sure they have the example of married life, of the sacrament between a man and a woman and their love, and how it witnesses God's love to us. So that's helped bring more of the parish on board. We have a reluctant parent on there who's a convert to Christianity, and Catholicism, and whose son's interested in being a priest. And that's why I specifically put him on the committee.
Oh, really?
Because he was very leery about this, and he was very leery about trying to force his son into being a priest. So he's been a great voice there of helping us make sure that we expand their efforts in a way that he's now a great champion, and he's now at peace with his son perhaps becoming a priest, because he's come to see that it really isn't about leading a young man or a young woman to a particular path. It's about helping them discover God's will. That's what we're about. And if we do that with the youth, I think we're going to have more priests and sisters than we know what to do with.
Well, I think it's a program that a lot of people listening are going to want to emulate. I'm already planning to make a copy of this recording for my pastor and to see if I can go to him and possibly get him on board with starting something like this in our own parish. And I really want to recommend your books one more time around. The main book, The Cross, Our Only Hope, that we've been discussing today, is only the start of the work that you've done with Ave Maria Press, and we'll have links in our show notes for all of the books. But I would specifically want to mention The Gift of Hope, which is coming out in September, and is a book of Advent and Christmas reflections, and specifically also The Gift of the Cross, which is Lenten reflections. So these are great tools that anybody can make a part of their daily prayer routine. It certainly has blessed me in my prayer life, and I want to thank you and your brother priests and the other brothers and contributors to those. Are there any closing thoughts before we let you get back to your parish work that you'd like to share with the listening audience today?
I just want to thank them for their faith. I love being a priest. It's a great joy in my life, but it wouldn't be as joyful and as life-giving if there wasn't for the faithful, and how each and every day in little ways they confirm me in my vocation, sustain me in my growth and holiness, and push me on to greater zeal in serving the gospel. So thanks for often the very quiet witness that lay men and women and families or out in the world give to our faith, because it does nourish us priests in our service. And so thank you for all that you do, and God bless you.
Well, our guest again today has been Father Andrew Gawrych, and he is the author and editor of The Cross, Our Only Hope, as well as other great books from Ave Maria Press. Be sure to visit us wherever you listen to this podcast for links to his books. And Father Drew, thank you so much for your time today and for the tremendous work that you're doing. And we will definitely all keep you in our prayers. Thank you very much. And God, I'll pray for you all as well. We'll have some links in our show notes for ways that you can get in touch with Father Andrew Gawrych and check out his books as well. Absolutely fabulous young priest. Please keep him in your prayers and keep all of our priests in your prayers during this year for priests. They have such a need for our encouragement and our enthusiastic support of the great work that they're doing. So thanks again to Father Andrew Gawrych. And we're going to close out this week's show with a little bit of feedback. First off, we've got a phone call from our friend Tracy, who called into the listener feedback line. Here's Tracy.
Hi, Lisa. My name is Tracy, and I listen to your podcast every week. I catch up with it whenever I can at work or walking, and I just wanted to let you know I so enjoyed the Rosary Workout podcast. I listened to it while I was walking, so it was very inspiring. And then I just finished up your interview with Immaculée, and what a beautiful woman, what a fantastic interview. I would love to be able to see her in February, so we'll see how that works out since I'm all the way in Florida. But I can always read her books, so thank you. You always have the most interesting people, and I enjoy the links, and I just want to tell you to keep up the great work. God bless. Well, Tracy, I want you to know that you are my new best friend because you called our listener feedback line, and I absolutely love getting that kind of feedback. You can reach that phone number at 206-339-9272. We would love to hear your voice on the show, so if you got something to share or some feedback like Tracy, please call in. And Tracy, be sure to head over to Immaculée's website because she actually speaks just absolutely all over the world, and I'm sure she's going to be down in Florida sometime soon. And I'm so happy to report that the local appearance here in February up in Merced, where Immaculée is going to be speaking, is sold out several months in advance of the event. And recently another event has been added. She's going to be visiting the city of Visalia, also near Fresno. So I'll have some details about that for you next week and ways that you can get tickets for that if you missed the boat on the Merced appearance. And oh my gosh, such great things are shaping up for that Merced appearance. Annie Carto, who's just a terrific Catholic musician, is going to be there as well. So kudos to my friend Brian Kravick and his organizing committee for getting that event. 1,000 tickets sold that far in advance of the event to hear Immaculée. And again, Tracy, thank you so much for taking the time to call in. And I want to say hello and give a little shout out to a couple of my new Facebook friends from this week, Nancy and David, who were kind enough to add me as a friend over on Facebook. Are we friends on Facebook yet? Because if we're not, I'd love to connect with you there. You can track me down. It's Lisa Hendey, Lisa Hendey. So head over to Facebook, and we always have a link for that in our show notes as well. We're getting short on time, and I have a great thing to share with you this week. It's a little bit of a taster. It's going to be our prayer for this week. A little sample from the brand new CD from such a fabulous Catholic musician group, Popple. So many of you are, like me, rabid Popple fans, and I'm so happy to announce that their brand new CD dropped on Monday, or actually maybe not on Monday. I think it was actually just yesterday. CD number 3 for them, called Hip Hooray, which is a great way to describe the way I feel about the fact that they've got a new CD out. And they invited me to play my favorite song from this new CD for you, and to invite you to come over to their website to check out the CD as a whole. And I hope you'll do that and that you'll support them in their music ministry. Popple's music is just fun and uplifting and full of spirit, and I had really a hard time trying to decide which song to play for you because there are about 5 or 6 on the CD that I absolutely already love, but this one really was special to me. I think it describes many of the people that I've interviewed on the show and many of you that are out there listening as well. It describes Deacon Tom and
my friend Sarah Reinhardt, and lots of you that are friends of mine through this virtual parish community of ours. It's called Salt and Light, and it's from the brand new Popple CD, Hip Hooray. So be sure to head over to wherever you listen to the website, wherever you listen to the podcast, to check out the show notes and for your chance to enter the contest that we've got going on right now. You can enter our rosary contest, which is an absolute extravaganza of great rosary items. And also be sure to enter our CatholicMatch.com contest that we're having this month through the end of October. You don't need to be single to enter that contest. You can enter it for a friend, and you can give that subscription away. It's a 3-month membership to the leading online community for Catholic singles over at catholicmatch.com/Lisa. And until next week, I hope you will drop me an email. You can reach me at lisa@catholicmom.com. You can call our listener feedback line at 206-339-9272, or be my friend on Facebook or Twitter. And until next week, everybody, enjoy Popple, and we'll see you real soon. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.
You are the salt of the earth. May you never lose your flavor. And you are the light, you shine bright in the night. Don't ever be concealed. A city on a hill, it cannot hide. So let your good work shine. Let them shine. Let them shine. Let your light shine on every good work, and let your light shine out to all of the earth, so the world will see. A city on a hill, you cannot hide. So let your good work shine, let them shine. Under your feet, don't let me be under a bushel. Under your feet, don't let me be under a bushel. Under your feet, don't let me be under a bushel. Under your feet, don't let me be. You are the salt of the earth.
SQPN, leading the way in Catholic new media.